Hello and welcome to The Explainer. I am so incredibly excited to take you through today's topic, because today we're looking at one of the most famous pieces of literature in all of human history, the Genesis creation story. But we're going to be looking at it through a very specific, kind of unexpected lens. We're not doing a theological debate here, and we're not getting into a scientific argument. Instead, we are going to examine this text strictly as a brilliant architectural blueprint. Seriously, when you strip away all the centuries of debate and just look at the text itself, what emerges is this remarkably structured, highly intentional design. It's absolutely fascinating.
So, we have to start right at the beginning, right in the dark mystery of the text. Before there's any light, before there's any life, the source material establishes the starting condition of the universe. And it is definitely not a blank canvas. It's a completely chaotic one. The text actually describes the earth as without form and void, shrouded in just absolute darkness over the face of the deep. And this right here, this sets up the ultimate tension for the entire narrative.
Okay, let's dive into this, because understanding this initial state is literally everything. Void isn't just empty space, It implies a state of total formlessness. It's primal chaos. It's a completely unlivable, unstructured environment. So, the crucial takeaway here is that the text is presenting us with this massive, almost insurmountable architectural problem. Think about it. How on earth do you take a completely formless, pitch-black, chaotic void and turn it into a habitable, structured system? Well, it requires a highly organized solution.
Section 1. Order from the void.
And that brings us to the first major phase of this blueprint, extracting order out of that initial void. To solve this massive problem, the world is built step by step using a very, very precise methodology. I want you to notice the strategic repetition in the text. Every single major act of creation follows this exact four-step rhythmic formula. First up, there's a divine command, let there be. Second, the execution, and it was so. Third, the assessment, God sees that it was good. And finally, a time marker, so the evening and the morning were. This repetition anchors the whole shebang. It tells the reader, hey, this isn't a chaotic process. It is deliberate, it's methodical, and it is completely under control.
This rhythm repeats across a carefully constructed 6-day sequence. Honestly, think of this as the ultimate construction schedule for the universe. We're going to explore this timeline, and as we do, I really want you to notice how each day serves a very specific function in solving that initial problem of the chaotic void.
Section 2. Carving out the spaces.
Let's look at the first 3 days of this schedule. Now, the focus here isn't on creating living things yet, not at all. It is purely about carving out spaces and setting boundaries. I mean, you can't move inhabitants into a house before you've actually built the rooms, right? So on day 1, we see the very first act of order. Out of that total darkness, God commands light. But notice what happens next. He separates the light from the darkness. He's defining the parameters of illumination and time, calling them day and night. So that huge problem of darkness mentioned in the opening lines, it's immediately resolved by introducing structured time.
Then, we move on to day 2, and the architect addresses those chaotic deep waters. The text introduces something called a firmament. Now, this is essentially a massive dividing structure, literally a boundary placed right in the middle of the primal waters. It carves out an expanse, separating the waters below from the waters above. And this new space is called heaven, or the sky. So you can see, order is being violently imposed on the chaos by establishing these clear, absolute physical boundaries.
By day 3, the action really starts to multiply. The waters under the sky are gathered into one place, creating the seas, so that dry land can finally appear. And the absolute second this dry land, the earth, is carved out, it immediately begins to produce. Grass, herbs, fruit trees just burst forth. So the basic foundational habitats are now completely built, and they're fully furnished with vegetation. The spaces are finally ready.
Section 3. Rulers of the realms.
Now we transition into the second half of the creation week. The foundational spaces are carved out, the boundaries are set, and the energy of the text dramatically increases here because these newly built realms are about to get populated with their inhabitants. And this brilliantly illustrates the real genius of the Genesis text. There is this hidden, perfectly symmetrical blueprint at work here. Day 4 directly corresponds to day 1. Day 5 corresponds to day 2, and day 6 perfectly matches day 3. The author has designed this beautifully balanced structure where the inhabitants created in the second half of the week are perfectly, and I mean perfectly matched, to the spaces carved out in the first half. Let's see exactly how this plays out.
So back on day 1, God created the concepts of day and night. Now on day 4,
God creates the entities that will actually inhabit and govern those specific realms. The text explicitly says the sun is made to rule the day, and the moon and stars to rule the night. They're placed in the firmament for signs, for seasons, days, and years. The abstract concept of time from day one now has actual physical rulers.
Moving right along to day 5. The text links directly back to day 2. Remember that empty sky and those newly separated seas? Well, now the waters absolutely abound with living creatures, and winged birds take to the firmament. And what's absolutely fascinating here, I just love this detail, is that day 5 introduces the very first blessing from God. He tells these creatures to be fruitful and multiply, ensuring that these new spaces won't just be populated for a moment, but will remain permanently filled.
Then, on the first part of day 6, we connect right back to day 3. The dry land that was separated from the seas, the earth that grew all that vegetation, is now populated with all variations of land animals. Cattle, creeping things, beasts of the earth. They're all brought forth according to their kind. The land is officially teeming with life.
Section 4. The crowning creation. So the architectural blueprint is nearly complete. The void has been structured, the darkness has been illuminated, the spaces are carved out and populated. We are building toward a grand climax here. Up until this point, the command has always been, let there be, or let the earth bring forth. But suddenly, right here, the language shifts dramatically. The architect pauses, and the text says, let us make man in our image, according to our likeness. This is a huge departure from the previous formula. It marks a distinct, elevated, and uniquely authoritative status for mankind within this freshly built world.
Humanity is systematically integrated into this blueprint. They aren't just placed in the world to wander around aimlessly. They're assigned very specific structural roles. They're commanded to multiply as a species, they're told to fill and subdue the earth, and most significantly, they are given dominion over the fish, the birds, the cattle, and creeping things. Humanity is essentially installed as the middle management of creation. They are the ultimate site supervisors, tasked with overseeing all the wild inhabitants of days 4, 5, and 6.
And to ensure this newly finished system runs perfectly, the text outlines the ultimate supply chain. Every seed-yielding herb and fruit tree, literally the very things created back on day 3, are explicitly given as food. And this isn't just for humans, by the way, but for every beast and bird too. It establishes a wonderfully harmonious, self-sustaining order where the structure itself provides for all of its inhabitants.
Section 5. The final assessment.
As the dust finally settles on the 6th day, this immense architectural undertaking comes to its grand conclusion. It's time for the final inspection. Throughout the text, after almost every single step, the assessment was simply, it was good. But here, at the very end, looking at the entire interconnected system, the text adds a crucial little modifier. God saw everything that he had made, and indeed it was very good. This is literally the only time that phrase is used, and it signals the absolute completion and utter perfection of the structural design. In exactly 6 days, the problem presented in those opening lines has been entirely solved. The dark, formless void has been systematically transformed into a perfectly ordered, beautifully symmetrical, and fully functioning world. The blueprint has been executed flawlessly.
Which leaves us with a pretty fascinating thought to take away from this explainer today. This text, it isn't just an ancient story. It's a foundational framework for how humanity has historically viewed its place in the universe. So, looking at this incredibly structured design, this super clear hierarchy of spaces, inhabitants, and dominion, how does this ancient blueprint of order continue to shape our relationship with the natural world today? It's definitely something to think about. Thank you so much for joining me as we deconstructed this incredible text and keep exploring.